There are some clues, I think, on the Liverpool website as to what the future of Liverpool's goalkeeping brilliance and academy is. There are a lot of theories around why Liverpool have suddenly been so good at goalkeepers. Maybe it was because we were so bad at goalkeepers. We kind of began to really try and double down in an area that we knew tactically. If you're poor in that area, you're going to be poor. Look at Man City in the Club World Cup at the moment. Look at where Chelsea. There's just a number of big sides who know how important locking down that goalkeeper position could be. But I was on the website this morning just because I was going to make this video. I was talking about the excellence of Liverpool's goalkeeper recruitment. Allison, brilliant. We've currently got 2 goalkeepers out on loan. I think Davies and, or is it Davies or Woodman? One or the other. And then we've also got Yaros out on loan. Obviously, he's out on loan at Ajax. That kind of shows the level of play. These are guys who are competing for a Champions League spot and competing for a title. And then on top of that, we've also got 2 young goalkeepers coming in Pesky, and obviously, Mamardashvili hasn't even been a name that's been mentioned yet. Weirdly, Mamardashvili is the only goalkeeper that's not on the website. And that was probably just an administrative error. But what I will say is, and I think is a little bit unusual, the other goalkeepers who've been signed, possibly because we can just take a photo of them, are on there. And Mamardashvili isn't. And I'm just wondering if there is a way, if there is a different plan for Mamardashvili this summer, and on whether we're actually going to use him as either a make weight in a deal, an accumulator of cash, basically in trading a guy because he is a great goalkeeper, and I think he's someone. I'm wondering if we wanted to watch him a little bit longer, and we were kind of going, okay, well, we've got Allison. I still think we are unconvinced by Allison's fitness, but I think that's another conversation to be had. And I think Allison, broadly with backup, gets you through a season. But Kelleher was just no longer willing to be that backup. And I've got to admit, I'm not really sure if Mamardashvili is a backup goalkeeper, especially in terms of his approach coming into a World Cup. All these kind of things, right? I don't even know where Georgia are at, by the way. But I think the brilliance of what Liverpool have done is in stark contrast to what we used to have as a goalkeeper situation, all right? And I can take you back I think you can go back probably all the way, even to Bruce Grobbelaar. The Bruce Grobbelaar years, Liverpool were fantastic. They're a very dominant team, and they had some very good centre-backs in front of them. And goalkeeping was almost a completely different sport back then, but he was a great goalkeeper. And obviously his reputation has been kind of questioned more in years since then, but I don't think anyone really remembers or knows enough about that now to know how badly that would have impacted him with us, right? If at all. Fast forward, our next goalkeeper immediately after that I sort of grew up with was David James. Now, James, I think, was a young, promising goalkeeper that we held on to for too long because we couldn't find another goalkeeper in the market. And broadly, I'll just be honest, I don't think he was all that good as a goalkeeper for Liverpool. In fact, I think he was very shaky. And there were many times where it really felt like he undermined the confidence of that back line. I think he was the goalkeeper for the first game that I went to go and see between Liverpool and Sion, his first game with my dad. And I just remember I didn't really like him as a goalkeeper as a kid. I know he went on to do great things and become England's number 1, but when he was Liverpool's keeper, he really wasn't the guy. I think that's fair, right? And I think there are some stories he has about that, so fair enough. We then move on. The next fast forward is to Sander Westerveld, who was the treble, in inverted commas, winning goalkeeper for Liverpool under Houllier, because Liverpool were kind of moving things into the 21st century by that point, or towards the 21st century. And we began to explore Europe a little bit more under Houllier. On the back of that, we didn't even finish that era with that. We got Dudek after that. We had kind of another couple of filler guys in. We had a lot of backup guys in that time as well, who are, again, I don't think were all that good. I remember Turner was a goalkeeper for us in rotation with David James. And really, that was just a very out in the middle of nowhere type thing. Westerveld, weirdly, has become a bit of a Liverpool legend, but a few of the other legends sort of say that they didn't have a great relationship with him just because of his approach and his demeanour. But now he seems like a lovely guy. So, I mean, we did win things with him as well. So, maybe there isn't always harmony between the entire team. Move on. Dudek, Champions League, but not a long-term goalkeeper. However, went on to be Real Madrid's goalkeeper, so clearly had something good to him. On the back of that, we got Pepe Reina, who since has had questionable politics, but arguably was Liverpool's best goalkeeper of the modern era up until we got Allison. Because immediately after that, we then got, I think it was Mignolet that came in on the back of that. And that was kind of the beginning of that analytics era. And the reason I go back and map this out is because I really wanted to speak about the contrast. But we never felt there was depth behind Mignolet or even in Mignolet. Mignolet himself was obviously a lovely guy, but I never felt confident with him as a goalkeeper. And I'll be honest, like there were moments where you go, wow, Pepe Reina's a great goalkeeper. And there are also moments where you go, is this guy, is he really backing us up? And I know a lot of people rated him in the Liverpool squad, and he was obviously a great motivator of other players, and there was the World Cups that he was involved in, and he was a very prominent Spanish player at the time. So there are a lot of reasons to keep Pepe in the team. But broadly, I didn't really have confidence in any of those guys. Mignolet, obviously, then we have the final debacle with Loris Karius as we are looking to move on all that set of goalkeepers. And Liverpool are very understocked at that point in terms of goalkeepers. We really do not have a deep bag, should we say. And then in comes Allison. And I feel like since Allison came in, first of all, we've changed a lot of our training staff with Allison, and I think, that was a big part of it. We've become a bit of a centre for excellence for goalkeepers. And by the way, I will have missed a goalkeeper in there. There was like Brad. That was a sad story because I think he lost his child in the time he was at Liverpool, and that was a very tragic period for him. Of course, there was Brad Friedel. Damn it, miss Brad Friedel. Brad Friedel was actually a very experienced goalkeeper when he came to Liverpool. Probably one that I trusted a lot more than James, probably as much as Westerveld, and probably more than I did trust Dudek, I'll be honest. So, anyway. Allison has fundamentally changed things for Liverpool. I don't think we often acknowledge how much. Not only is it about the on-field persona, but the off-field persona of this guy, the leadership, the personality, the solid approach, all these kind of things, means that we get into a position where suddenly it's great to be an understudy to the best goalkeeper in the world because you can understand you're part of a centre of excellence. You're potentially part of something that's bigger, which is winning a title. And Keller sort of stayed to be that number two because he knew, well, Allison will get injured at some point. And that's still the worry for Liverpool. And I know maybe we've tried to implement some new training regimes for him, and maybe that does fundamentally change how he feels as a keeper and moves as a goalkeeper. He has changed physically a lot recently, which I do respect. And he did come in. He looked like a big boy when he first arrived at Liverpool. And he's sort of slimmed down quite a lot. He's not wiry now, but he's certainly wide. And, his physique is different, we'll put it that way, to what it used to be. I don't think it was bad by any means. But, I think he was certainly heavier when he first came in at Liverpool. Whether that was muscle or whatever that was, he was certainly a very different build. And then, weirdly, obviously that was all the Klopp era. Now, I don't think another manager comes in and says, look, best goalkeeper in the world. But I think Klopp was very much a risk taker because he knew he could almost eradicate or minimize some of those risks by motivating people. And that was a big part of that era for FSG, is the synergy between motivation and mentality and value. And now I think Liverpool are looking at the roster of keepers we have. And Allison still represents incredible value, don't get me wrong. He's someone who's probably as good as a striker for saving you 20 goals a season as much as you will concede 20, right? And he's also good with his relationship with Van Dijk. You always want a goalkeeper behind people that everyone trusts. He's great with his feet. He's good with his decision-making. Sometimes distribution is longer distribution in terms of just those like chipped, dinked passes. They do go a bit awry, I've got to be honest, and I think they could be improved. But he seems intelligent enough and kind of engaged enough to know, roughly where he's going with that. And Liverpool knows some of those deficiencies in inverted commas. I still think he's best goalkeeper in the world by a very long way. He's better than Ederson. We've seen that at the Club World Cup. I think he's better than any of the other Premier League offerings. I think Raya's certainly up there. He's on that kind of, So anyway, around that, if we are looking to move him on, we've created a centre for excellence. But one thing I question, and I do think is worth looking at, is if you don't have other excellent goalkeepers, so if Mamardashvili is seen as good but not as the best goalkeeper in the world, does it make it as easy to attract another goalkeeper who will be the backup to you or who will take part in those sessions in order to train and learn and those kind of things? Or does it make more sense to have that number one, Yaros is number 2. Possibly, I don't think Yaros is a long-term Liverpool goalkeeper, and I'm really not sure why. There's some sort of rotational thing going on. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's a personality thing. Maybe it's just hey, we might need this guy. We might need to call him back from a loan at some point. Maybe that is what Liverpool are looking at, especially if we're looking at Alisson's record. But I do think it's unusual that Mamardashvili is not in the lineup. And I'm really not sure in terms of on the website. And I'm really not sure why. And it made me question a couple of bits for Liverpool. Because they put those other young guys on there. We've got everyone else who's on the periphery, but not Mamardashvili. Maybe it'll go up after this. Maybe you'll click on the website and it'll be there. But I'm curious as to why. And I wonder if there is some value that we see in him this summer with another big team just going, we're desperate for a goalkeeper, loan or 40, 50 million, whatever it is. And out he goes again, accruing Liverpool a bit more cash, you know what I mean? But I'm interested in what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below and I will chat to you guys. Yeah, I'll chat to you guys. We've made the Centre for Excellence. I think we've identified the, how can I put it, like, the stats and the things you need to identify, and then the little minor things that each manager likes about their goalkeeper. Mamardashvili, I've heard Mamardashvili isn't all that good with his feet. Like, I've heard he isn't as good as Allison with his feet. And whilst he is fundamentally sound, I still think of Allison as a better goalkeeper, but I might be being biased because I haven't watched him a lot. Being at Valencia, not being another top club, does that undermine him for a season? Like, there's a lot of questions, I think, to be answered with Mamardashvili. There weren't as many when we signed Allison. I genuinely think he'd had an all-time run in the Champions League and was someone who we were like, wow, we are really getting the best in the world here. And you sort of saw that straight away, to be honest. I'm just not so sure about that. And I'm really unsure why we would disrupt that area unless it was an injury, so availability, and B, a very minor fundamental thing in terms of distribution. I think it'd be that. But probably Allison just fitting into that back line in the way that we want him to. And I think what we'll probably find is we will think of whichever goalkeeper replaces Allison as a compromise, because you're never going to be able to replace the best goalkeeper in the world with someone who you get rid of him, you know? So let me know what you guys think happens with the long term with this goalkeeper plan at Liverpool. And, you know, if you can move on a goalkeeper for 30, 40, 50 million, you're going to be making almost pure profit there because, you know, you don't sell an outfield player. But I'd be interested to know what you guys think the approach is here. This is the first time in, you know, the 30 years of my life that I felt confident always about the goalkeeper. Apart from that one game against Leicester where it was his first game and he basically put it back through his own legs. But apart from that, I love the guy and I would never replace him. But I'm pretty sure it's these underlying minor analytics which are currently making Liverpool line up someone just in the wings. And maybe it is that we would bring Yaros back midway through the season if we needed to or whatever. But even then, I think you wouldn't be training in that same way. Maybe we'd think of Ajax as like an adaptable place for him to be. Do you know what I mean? So I think we have built a roster, a stable of goalkeepers, which is incredible. But I wonder if we're tweaking now what it is that we want in that back line and whether Allison just doesn't quite tick every box. Especially after the comments from Slot, where it's basically, I need availability is an ability. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I think Allison fits brilliantly, but you know, there are deficiencies to his game, despite him being the best goalkeeper in the world. And those deficiencies are minor, but let's see. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. Head down to the Discord, head down to the Patreon, head down to the Super Chat. There's a new video on my Patreon. I'm going to be doing a lot more uploading on the Patreon over the summer. I wish you guys would join me in there. I'm thinking about putting an offer on it, but please do let me know. Like, you know, and offering a lot more content on there. Are you interested in more thoughts from me? Are you interested in just kind of more, oh, you know, I think I'm progressing this, I'm developing this? Or are you only interested in Liverpool and football thoughts? Appreciate you guys. Get in the Discord and let me know what you're thinking. And I'll, of course, get down in the comments. I always read all the comments and I'd love to reply to people who are productive or whatever. And I'll chat to you guys in a while. Much love.